Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of the Forestlake Morning Show. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Tyler.
Today we're going to be talking about... What are we talking about?
We're talking about how you stay together as a band. The pros, the cons, why bands break up, how not to break up, I guess, if you don't want to break up. And yeah, that principle. Because if you look historically, and we all know, there are plenty of bands that have gone through some shit. Whether it's a terrible breakup or... Well, yeah, just pretty much a terrible breakup.
Probably like every band has gone through something at one point.
I would agree. Yeah, especially if you think bands that are still together, the first two coming on my mind, U2, Coldplay, because we love them. We know they've struggled as a band. They've come out publicly to say, hey, we've almost broke up. We've had our lowest of lows. And then when you think about that, right? Like, why bands break up? Okay, if you don't know, if you're maybe not as into music as some other people are like us, there's really only a couple of main reasons.
I think there's a lot of reasons, but yeah, there's a few like key ones.
There's a few key ones.
We'll dive into them here,
and I'm gonna tell you them right now.
Let's hit it.
And if you disagree, or if you have more to add, since you think there's a lot, I don't think there's a lot.
If I disagree, we'll break up.
All right, I think there's four.
Forestlake will break up.
Wait,
on this episode.
Oh shit! No pressure. I'm gonna state that there are four main reasons why a band breaks up. It's going to be either a tragic death, it's going to be ego, which pretty much accompanies, or it covers a lot of reasons why somebody could break up in a band. Ego is like pursuing a solo career or whatever the case. I'll throw relationships into the part of ego because that could destroy relationships.
I can see that. Ego.
Yeah. Drugs and or quit for unknown reasons. Which can also tie into ego. So really you could bring it down to three, but those are my 4 biggest reasons why bands fall apart. The downfall of a band.
Yeah. And I feel like that covers a lot of them.
It does cover
a lot of like the 80s hair metal bands, all like drugs and ego, you know?
So, and that's where I'm coming from. So when you think like tragic deaths, right? Just starting off with like why a band falls apart. Nirvana.
Drugs.
Death.
Was that drug related though? A drug related death?
No. Jimi Hendrix was a drug related death, but he was a solo cat. I mean, if you factor in him in the Jimi Hendrix experience, there's that's a whole nother story about how Jimi Hendrix died and who's at fault for that, whether it was his girlfriend or band manager, because they wanted his money. But Nirvana, after, I'm sure they were doing drugs, I don't know, but the main thing was once,
Kurt Cobain, wasn't he shot?
Well, he killed himself, but there's there's theories that Courtney Love had him assassinated or maybe killed him herself. But as soon as he died, Nirvana was no longer Nirvana. Another band would be Beastie Boys, or you could look at Led Zeppelin. John Bonham passed away, and they pretty much broke up after that.
Yeah, kind of. You can make the exception, like they did come back together slightly.
But not
did a tour or like a mini tour.
Did they?
Or like a final show?
Sure?
Yeah, because they had Bonham's kid play.
Okay, it's like a memorial thing on honorary service of the legend of Led Zeppelin. But
right, even like Foo Fighters right now, like their drummer just passed away, and I just saw a video of
what's his name?
Travis Barker was playing drums, and then also
his son,
his kid was playing the drums.
What was
too.
the guy's name though?
He was doing good.
Yeah, that passed away.
Taylor Hawkins.
Yeah. I did see that video of his kid playing the drums. It was awesome.
He's good.
Yeah,
it's real good.
But that's a big reason why a band might break up. Another one is going to be solo career, ego. I know what comes to mind is you have NSYNC, who at the height of their career was selling like 50 million records.
NSYNC.
And then Justin Timberlake was like, yeah, peace out. I don't need this.
Yeah. It's like a lot of those bands, you'll have one guy break off and become extremely successful, and then the band just breaks apart. Like One Direction was one.
Now, a couple of those guys tried. I know One Direction in 2015, they were on tour when that Zayn kid left. He's like, I'm out. See ya. In the middle of the tour. And then it was then obviously Harry Styles just had the most incredible success. But Niall Horan, Neil, I don't know his name.
He's doing all right.
He did a little solo career for a minute. I don't know what Zayn's doing. I don't know what the other, however many there were, the two other dudes. But you're right. And you can think Beyonce of Destiny's Child. That was a relationship thing. There were two girls that quit. I don't know why. And then Beyonce's father was like pushing his own daughter because he was involved in the process. He's like, no, Beyonce's pretty good. Like,
yeah,
we got to get it up.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have the Beyonce we have if not for her going on to do her thing. But the ego can kill a band fast. And that's something we'll talk about later when we talk pros and cons of like us being in a 2-piece band.
Right.
And maybe what it's like for people with other members. Relationships, you got to have a good one. You got to be best friends first with your bandmates before you even...
The first thing that comes to mind is like John Lennon, the Beatles.
Why?
With Oku?
His wife?
What was her name? Yeah.
What about her?
Didn't she kind of like pull him away from the Beatles?
From the band?
Yeah.
Before he got shot?
Yeah. I thought that was a whole thing. Maybe not.
I don't like the Beatles and I don't know much about their history, so I don't know.
Moving on.
On that note.
Yeah.
If you do remember or recall that, then yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure. I don't want to say definitively.
He fell in love.
Yeah.
Why? Don't fall in love if you're in a band. Actually, that's like the worst thing you could do. Yeah.
So I kind of was on the side of like the difficulties of being in a band and like.
Oh, my bad. Okay, that's what you
want to talk
about?
like that you came from that angle. That's good. Because I was thinking more like
these are all difficult things of being in a band, yeah.
For sure, and things that come with becoming successful. I guess.
Yeah.
Is you kind of get all those things.
Egos can rise. Drugs can become necessary if you're touring and need them, or you feel like you need them, or you have a tragic death. I don't know, whatever the case.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's jump right into that then, because does Forestlake have what issues do we have as a band? Do we have any? Like, we can be raw. We can be real with the people.
All of the issues.
I honestly think that us as a two-piece band makes a lot of the issues not present. When it comes to decision making,
yeah,
I find it much easier to work with you and nobody else.
It's very simple. Like, the more people you have, the more problems you're gonna run into potentially. You know, if you're like writing a verse or something, you know, everyone has to agree on the melodies, everyone has to agree on the lyrics that you're putting in. Or
yeah, maybe not agree, but just not say anything, right? If you're just a drummer, like, you got to know your role. Is that an ego thing then? Or do you feel like you're not being listened to if you don't like it, right?
But then it also kind of like you were talking about like the writing process of a band. You know, what if you have a situation where you have like a full band, but maybe your singer is writing all your songs? You know, like, is your singer okay with writing all the songs and then splitting the
profit,
the rights, all the credits and everything with the rest of the band who did nothing?
Like we talked about with Ryan Tedder, who said in the early days of One Republic,
he just wrote everything.
He did everything. Yeah. The other guys just showed up. And maybe they loved it. Maybe they're like, yeah, this is still a nice paycheck. I go on tour, people scream our songs, and
nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think another thing with us, because we're more of like a startup, we're independent, is finances.
Yes.
That's, I think, is a big difficulty kind of starting out, is everything's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we're in a good spot where we're able to produce a lot of our own stuff. And so we cut that expense out of the equation for now, but still, like, the mixing process is pricey, mastering, promotion, marketing, all that fun stuff.
Your marketing,
promotion, it adds up. Yeah,
it does. Not to mention the time factor that you have to devote to being in a band can take away from what money you are making at a job you have to work to support that band. But also, time itself is like an awkward stage for bands where, you know, it can take. Obviously, now we're in a different generation, as we talked about with TikTok, and you can have this instantaneous fame. Doesn't mean you have an instantaneous fan base, but you can have fame very quickly. And the stage of waiting to write songs with no success and go out and play shows and really take the time to develop and build a fan base. We've seen Coldplay became huge in 2001, but they've been together since they formed in 1996.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up. I was just reading an article about how labels have changed dramatically, because back in the day, they would sign an artist, but that artist would be, they would have been together already. Like, they would have been on the road. They formed, they've kind of like figured out how to play live. They figured out, like, they've kind of set in,
done a lot of work
with the band. Yeah. Opposed to someone who blows up on TikTok overnight and, you know, a label comes and looks at them and they're brand new. You know, that maybe they haven't played a show before. they don't know who they are as an artist, you know, and all those kind of things. It's changed. Like, it's crazy. It's kind of nuts what TikTok is doing for the industry.
Right. It is. And that's just another, you know, thing you gotta fight against when you're trying to be a band that's trying to find some sort of success, which is, again, yet another episode we could talk about where I think we've mentioned it a few times. Where do you draw the line on what success is and for your band, right? Because everyone in the music industry, all the independent artists, if you factor in everyone making music, releasing music, you're just not going to be able to have them all be on the top. It just won't. Right. You're going to have more superstars over the other ones. But it doesn't mean that those people that you may not know of aren't successful or out there touring on some form of success. But the time factor. U2, another one. They were together for a band for, I think, 4 or 5 years before they really hit big with War in the early 1980s.
Yeah, it seems to be like that for a lot of bands. Like, they're together for a while, and then all of a sudden, like, everything kind of comes together for them, and they get signed, and so they have that big hit.
Exactly. And imagine that period where you have a band that's together, and they're writing music for a year or two, and nothing's happened, and they're doing everything that they think they can do, and they just were like, well, this ain't going to work. So they quit.
Yeah, they lose hope. Lose all motivation.
They say somebody who is successful is somebody who failed but tried one more time. Obviously, that's so cliche.
All it takes is one, though.
You're right, but like, imagine if everyone imagine the time right before you succeeded at something. If you just gave up, if you had to do something more than once, and you just gave up, never did it again, then you would have never gotten to that point. So that's all it is.
That's a lot of bands like that. You know, a lot of bands have failed, almost gotten to that point, but not quite.
Right.
And I heard something where it's like, if a band can stay together and consistently play good music, put out good music, and like they maintain their iconic like look, I guess, and sound, if they can stay together for 10 or 15 years, then it's kind of, that's like the breaking point. Like they will have had to have made it at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but
well, look at U2. They've been together almost 40 years. They've been together 40 years. Over 40 years. Coldplay's up there as well. Pushing 20-something.
Probably 20 or maybe 30 years.
They'll be pushing 30 years soon.
Crazy.
But they've been through everything. Things that we can't even imagine, because we're only with us, it's a little different because you and I have grew up playing music for so many years. So there's a foundational relationship with us. Now, there's a lot we haven't done together as a band, but when we go back and talk about, well, if you're in a band right now, whether it's one person, two person, well, maybe not one person because you're on your own, but 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many people, having a relationship first with your bandmate as like, just take away the music, right? Are you good friends? Do you guys communicate? Do you talk? Do you?
Yeah, that's really a big thing. Like personalities too.
Exactly.
You know? I've left bands in the past just with clashing personalities. You know, it just doesn't work out.
Right.
And it's a make or break thing. It really is.
It is. And then you can bring in the music and say, hey, do we like the music we're making? Do we communicate well to say that this is a good idea, this isn't a good idea, we want to go this direction with marketing, or have these people come on board? I mean,
and that's where you get to, like, if you had a full band with 4 or 5 members in it, each one has to agree each step of the way, and that just poses so many problems.
Yeah, unless they've already established that great foundation of being best friends.
It's like a marriage, man.
It's like marriage, dude. I was gonna say, it's like having it's a full-time commitment. You know, it's serious stuff. You got to communicate well. I think we do so. I think we acknowledge when something we don't like, because what if you break it down? What would really tear somebody apart? Like, and we experience this often, right? Maybe I write something and I think it's good enough to go forward, and you're like, no, it's not. We're not touching it. And I think we have that right now. We have one song that
we have a few,
but there's one in particular, and it's exactly that. But we communicate about it, and we joke about it now, which is kind of funny that it's just a fun song to joke about.
Yeah.
Oh, will this make it? Will this get to the next stage?
No, it will not.
But that's that's where we can acknowledge our personality and our friendship first, because if not, it would be the ego that says, well, screw you. It's if you don't. I can understand. I can listen to you and say, okay, I believe in this project. You believe in this project. if he can objectively hear this and say it's not ready yet, it's not going to be something we don't need to invest our time.
I think that's really the thing. Like, you just have to be open with one another, and
exactly, and be willing to. It, like you're saying, it's like a marriage. You have to be.
Yeah.
Now, marriage is a little different. I'm not married, but I've seen my parents married. They're married for 20 some years now, and it's like, I think my mom is the boss. Okay, I'm just gonna say, my dad, he makes it happen. Listens to my mom. Yeah, and I feel like that's a stereotype.
I think that's kind of how it happens. The dad's always, it's just like, hey, I just want to thank you for sticking around for all these. You know,
you want a marriage to work, you got to listen to the wife. Yeah. And that's not even to like be like sex or anything. That's just like, you know, have a good marriage. There's more to it, but yeah, same thing here. Like you gotta, you know, you do have to listen to the other people.
By the way, if you're wondering, like I was just a little bit ago, what is sitting on Tyler's lap? What is this piece of wood? This is our thinking stick. You want to explain the thinking stick?
This is a piece of wood that came out of nowhere.
We have no idea where it came from.
No idea where it came from. It actually stems from my apartment back in Cleveland. And it was always there. Even when you would come visit, it was there. And
it's just something we'd fiddle with. And you get creative when you fiddle with this stick. Yeah. And so whenever we're like stuck on a song or something, or trying to like think a new part, you get the thinking stick.
I think what's important here to know, because objectively you might be like, one, if you're listening to this, there's about a 2 foot long 4x4 sided piece of wood with no marks on it. But if you're visually seeing this, you can see it. This the only significance this has to you is that if you do like our music and you're going to listen to what we're about to put out,
it comes from the thinking stick.
a lot of decisions have been made with this thing in one of our hands.
We might have to frame it.
Yeah, probably. It blows my mind where this came from. But yeah, so I don't know. I felt like having it on for this podcast, so that's why it's here. Because, you know, it is a fidget toy. Yeah. And we just twirl it around.
And this is us all day.
A lot of the time. This is us. We just fiddle with a piece of wood. And there are also 2 softballs that float around the studio. So we try to make the studio fun. We got to have fun, man. We're in a band, okay? You know, that's the other half of it. You got to have fun.
Just have fun.
Have fun and go with the flow, I guess. I would love to have a band on, a 4-person band. I know there's one in Cleveland that I follow tabs on. There's actually a couple, but there's one called Recess. They're independent kids.
Wait, Recess. Why have I heard of this?
You heard of them?
Yeah. Oh.
They all follow us on. They follow Forestlake, and we follow them back.
The dude from my last band used to play in Recess.
Shut up.
That's how I know it.
No way.
Yeah.
Which one?
You know him.
Really? Which band? Wait, what was the band?
Recess.
Well, okay, so I never actually met these people in person. I would love to go to one of their shows.
How do you know them?
Well, I like their music. I think they're like a pop band. They're like a pop. I wouldn't say they're like pop rock. They're like pop,
kind of.
Well, they are playing real instruments, but like they're pop.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're a pop rock band.
I think they used to be more rock, more like pop rock.
Now they are getting poppy. Well, I like their pop stuff. So I listen to them and I just follow them. They're out there playing shows.
That's funny you brought that up.
No way. What instrument? The vocalist?
Guitar. I think just
the
guitar.
Guitarist?
Yeah.
I knew that kid. I met him.
I think so. Possibly.
Really? I wonder if they're listening into this podcast like, yeah. Dude, you don't know me? I'm like, no, I don't know you, but I if I'm ever back in Cleveland, I'll come see your show. Point is, like, they're just one that comes to mind. There's plenty of other independent artists, but it's like we should look to have some bands on to, at one point in the future, by the way, man, this is just a casual conversation at this point.
Yeah,
at one point in the future, we will start having a few people on. So like,
yeah,
next month, the videographer that does a lot of our work is coming to visit. We're manifesting that down. He's coming down, so he will come on the podcast and talk and give his insights on.
That'll be cool.
Kind of like the behind the scenes of being a videographer for music videos.
Right.
How that works, what it's like for him, because I know he's got some stories to say and what it's like to work with independent artists. So it's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But we want to start incorporating guests into this show once we.
Yeah, definitely. I think
start meeting more people.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be really cool to hear people's insights into like what they do. Specifically, like Khalil, right?
Khalil. KP.
KP. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like KP with the music video stuff. If we can get some other artists on here, I think that'd be really cool.
Absolutely. Like, imagine if we had a band on here and they were like, yeah, well, actually, we deal with this issue. This is how we stay together as a band for so long. Do you know any bands that broke apart aside from the ones that you were in?
None that really come to mind.
None.
We'll give it time.
Rock Apocalypse.
Rock Apocalypse. On that note, we'll see you next week.
Should I not have brought that up? we try to stay away from that as much as possible. That was a generational thing. That was a generation of the School of Rock. Go watch that video, but that was just an end of an era. But that band did break up. I think every band that passes through this,
I think it was an ego thing, you know?
You think it was an... Stop. Don't say that. It was an ego thing. No. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's about all we have really to say. Yeah.
We'll keep it short.
Keep it
quick.
And if you are a band wanting to come to Tampa or in Tampa and somehow come across this podcast and want to come on the Forestlake Morning Show, link up with us via Instagram direct message, YouTube comments, whatever. However you want to reach out to us, we'll get back to you. We're not that hard to reach yet. One day we hope to.
I hear the ego coming.
Oh, shit.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
All right. Peace out.